Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, brothers and sisters. Welcome back. This is our third last page of Surah al-Hajj. Inshallah, we have Imam Baytullah Hoja again. Tafaddal.
شكرا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الملك يومئذ لله يحكم بينهم فالذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات في جنات النعيم والذين كفروا وكذبوا بآياتنا فأولئك لهم عذاب مهين والذين هاجروا في سبيل الله ثم قتلوا أو ماتوا ليرزقنهم الله رزقا حسنا وإن الله لهو خير الرازقين ليدخلنهم مدخلا يرضونه وإن الله لعليم حليم ذلك ومن عاقب بمثل ما عوقب به ثم بغي عليه لينصرنه الله إن الله لعفو غفور ذلك بأن الله يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وأن الله سميع بصير ذلك بأن الله هو الحق وأن ما يدعون من دونه هو الباطل وأن الله هو العلي الكبير ألم تر أن الله أنزل من السماء ماء فتصبح الأرض مخضرة إن الله لطيف خبير له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن الله لهو الغني الحميد صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khair. Imam Baytullah, you recited a lot for us in this program.
Jazakumullah khaira. May Allah accept from all of us whatever we are doing in this blessed days, Ya Rab.
Ameen. Jazakumullah khair. MashaAllah, what a recitation we just listened to. Our third last page, and inshallah these will be our online ones, and tomorrow we'll be having the our final one, Sheikh Yusuf, where inshallah we've asked our listeners who've been following this to come, if they're in the Lehigh Valley, they're fasting, to join us for the iftar program. And before the iftar program, we will broadcast this live while we're doing 2 pages that are remaining from Surah Hajj, and we'll be joined with some of our local imams and shuyukh from the Lehigh Valley. So we look forward to that. Inshallah, let's continue. Shaykh Yusuf, verse number 56. On that day, the absolute authority belongs to God exclusively. He judges all people and makes a distinction between them. Consequently, those who believe and do good, righteous deeds will be in gardens of bounty and blessings. As for those who disbelieve and deny our revelations, for them there will be a shameful, humiliating punishment. That was verses 56 and 57.
I think that's pretty clear there.
Yeah, Athabul Muhin, humiliating. Verse 58. Those who emigrate in God's cause and then are killed or die God will most certainly provide for them with a good, wholesome sustenance. Surely God is He who is the best to be sought as provider, with the ultimate rank of providing. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ.
Here the reality that is being put forward is that Iman demands sacrifice. And the tests and the trials and the tribulations that the first community went through in order to cultivate Iman not only in their hearts but in their life or lives, is very obvious. So here is showing the Quran is comforting because of all the trials and tribulations, and just maintain, you know what I'm saying? And in the end, they saw some facility in the dunya as well. Medina became a place where things became a little more easy for them in terms of practice. So that was there. There was some reward in the dunya, but the true reward is to maintain for the hereafter. But sacrifice, no doubt, came along with.
And the companions doing hijrah was a special maqam, and to the point where, we know the famous story of Sa'd radiallahu anhu, that he didn't want to die in Mecca because that was the land he migrated away from for the sake of God. So here it points to the rank that those who immigrate, the companions would want to be those who die or are killed after immigrating and not returning to their cities.
And the reality here too, we're reminded, we mentioned this before, but we're reminded of the hijrah of Ibrahim.
That's right.
Because this is the context of Hajj and the Kaaba, and the reality how Ibrahim, our father, alayhi salam, he was forced also to migrate, just like the believers were forced to migrate, and for this very same causes, for the reality was that.
Recently I heard that there was around the world some estimates of 72 million refugees in different parts of the world, and many Muslims. Imagine
most Muslims.
Most of them are Muslims, in fact, yeah. But imagine their psychology, and these verses are comforting because people have left Syria, Turkey, Egypt, Lebanon, and they've left and they've gone to another country. One of the biggest worries is the immediate, how is going to provide for me? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He's the best of providers. SubhanAllah, over the years, seeing people, some of these refugees come with nothing and then somewhat settle and standing up on their own two feet. It's very comforting to see that.
That's the command that's given to the believers, to have hope in Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and to trust in the provision that comes from Allah. Those who are in that state of migrating. But the practice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to organize the community to assist those people.
The mu'afat between the Ansar.
The ties of brotherhood. And that's our responsibility as well to our brothers and our sisters, to reorganize ourselves as a community to aid and support one another spiritually, emotionally, materially, and to create an environment where we can flourish. What I'm saying? But it's not just to leave the people. And I know that, you weren't suggesting that, but just in case someone.
No, that's a very good point, that those who are migrating, that's a comforting for them. But those who are not, our homes are here. When we hear these things and then we see people around us, so if someone reads this verse after Fajr and then during the day he comes across a Muslim refugee, I'm meeting people who've come within a few weeks from very troubled countries, sometimes with nothing, accommodation's an issue. Yeah, a lot falls upon us. Verse number 59, He will most certainly admit them to a place with which they will be pleased. Surely God is all-knowing, all-clement. Afuun Ghafoor. Verse 60, So it will be, and whoever responds to the wrong done to him to the extent of the wrong, and then is again subjected to oppression, God will most certainly help him. Assuredly, God is all-pardoning, who overlooks the faults of His servants, all-forgiving. Now, seeking retaliation has been allowed in Islam, and in other times we often get told that forgiveness is always the higher one, and that's how the verse ends, Sheikh Yusuf.
Mm-hmm.
However, sometimes those who are oppressed, seeking their rights, seeking the haqq, is almost praiseworthy. Like it's, there are verses in the Quran, I think it's in Surah Shu'ara, if I'm not mistaken. Allah SWT says, except for those who believe, and those who do good deeds, and those who seek their rights when they're oppressed. It's listed as a virtuous act. So this verse, when I read verses like this, it sort of reminds me of that as well. Sometimes belief is not always to be a pacifist and let a tyrant get stronger and stronger and do more and more zulm to you and make the tyrant's task easier. Musa alayhi salam did not go to Pharaoh and say, here I am, tafaddal. He escaped to Midian,
Well, the same thing, the believers, they left the tyranny of Quraysh.
That's right.
And they left that environment and went to another environment. And they were forced into a situation where they, even if they wanted to be passive, which they took a passive route majority of their experience under oppression, even when they migrated away from the geography of oppression, so to speak, they still were not left alone. So they were put in a situation where they had to organize themselves in such a way that justice would be established.
Yeah.
Right. But one of the things that we have to always remember when we start talking about the pursuit of justice is the ethics, the code of ethics of the believer. And we talked about that, a couple of sessions back, or else we just open up the door for, the mutual exchange out of vengeance, mutual violence out of vengeance. But I think that the character of the believer here, has been emphasized over and over again, not to transgress the bounds, to be people of ethics and to be people of goodness and so on and so forth. But yes, the teachings of Islam, are about establishing justice. And I think that that's one of the most difficult conversations in Islamic history.
Yeah.
The issue of justice and being established. And it's very important for us as Muslims to operate out of, the regard for human dignity. Because a lot of times there's too many instances where in the teachings of some of the scholars, there's a past gold card given to the tyrant for the sake of maintaining the stability of the ummah, even if the tyrant violates human dignity.
Yeah, and we expect the oppressed person to say, brother, have patience.
Yes.
Whereas that's not the place to show patience. And also, sometimes only the one who's been directly affected by oppression, he can forgive.
Yes.
Someone else on their name cannot forgive. If someone has come hit your child, I can't forgive them on your behalf.
Right.
Even if I'm a leader of a country,
right,
I can't. You have to forgive that.
And that
Islam is very sensitive about this issue. Sometimes people say, why doesn't X group forgive X? It's not about that. Oppression, just like zakat is given to individuals, when oppressions affect individuals, individuals need to forgive.
That's the difficult piece that I think that we have to have more conversations about that, especially in the modern world, what that means.
Yeah.
Especially in the modern world, it's not like the pre-modern world where you can migrate to another country with facility. There was no issue with problems of citizenship and visas and modern economy. In the past, you can go, if there's a land on the earth, you throw seeds in and you work the land. No one's questioning you about, are you here? Do you have a deed to the land? Can you do this? So I think that within the modern context, when we start talking about the various forms of oppression that we see, we also have to have a response to those situations that does justice to these situations. There's people that are unjustly imprisoned. There's people that are stripped of citizenship. There's people that are falsely accused. You know what I'm saying? They can't just leave, and go to another place just because they want to be at peace and leave tranquilly and just kind of eliminate the whole pursuit of their rights. They have no way.
Yeah.
The public discourse, in other words, has to go to a higher level, when it comes to how we're dealing with these issues as a Muslim community.
No.
Allah knows best.
I continue, Yusuf. Verse 61, so will he do because God makes the night pass into the day and makes the day pass into the night.
Right.
And God is all hearing, all seeing. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rules and sunnah, the way He deals with human society, mirrors the way His physical creation, night and day, change into one another.
Right. The transformation of a state of oppression to a state of justice,
Yeah.
will remain, that there's accountability. But also the concept that we're going back to the way it is that morality, the morality that's legislated by Allah is also, there's also the signs of Allah in the universe, the book of Allah, a book of revelation and the book of creation.
Yeah.
And we're constantly asked to read between those two books, and the human being too. The human being sometimes is distinguished from the rest of the creation. And so you have the human, to look at himself and herself, and then to look at the universe, to see the signs of Allah, and also to see the commands of Allah and the guidance of Allah that's in the Quran.
Al-Una puts it poetically. He sort of connects it with تُؤْتِي الْمُلْكَ لِمَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتَنْزِعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ. You give good dominion to whom you want, and you take power from whoever you want. That He also changes the dark night of the oppressed into a bright day for them, and the bright day of the oppressors into a dark night for them. Every night is followed by a day, and every winter is followed by spring.
SubhanAllah.
Verse 62, so will He do, because God is He who is the absolute truth, and all the day the unbelievers deify and invoke instead of Him is she falsehood, and God is He who is the all-exalted, the all-great. Verse number 63, do you not consider that God sends down from the sky water, and behold, the earth turns green?
SubhanAllah.
Surely God is all subtle, in brackets penetrating to the most minute dimensions of all things, and accomplishing what He wills by ways that are not quite tangible, all aware, latifun khabir.
And that's another example of resurrection. The theme of resurrection is very prominent. In the creation itself or the natural world outside of the human is teaching us this concept of life and death. So the Quran is giving us the tafsir of nature, of how to read nature, how does nature speak to us and proclaims to us the message of Allah. So hear the message of Allah.
Yeah, and this God sending rain to an earth and it turning to green, coming to life, is a constant theme Allah SWT uses, and like you said, particularly for proofs of the resurrection. But here
and even the messenger being sent as a nourisher to us and bringing us life, with the reality of revelation, and the human being is brought back into the dignified state that the human being should be in, which is the state of Iman.
Yeah, but just with this verse, there's no explicit connection. It's not, and just like that will He raise the dead. Sometimes the verses like in Surah Rum, they sort of directly connected. This one doesn't. It could also be connected to the theme of just, night being turned to day, tough times into good times, a dry dead earth being turned into vegetation and green, and Allah's rizq. Allahu Alam. Verse 64, to Him belongs all that is in the heavens and all that is on earth, and surely God is He who is the all-wealthy and self-sufficient, the all-praiseworthy, who provides for all of them as their Lord.
And that closes it out. It shows that the same thing, like on the Day of Judgment, the day will be for Allah. And here is closed out by saying that, ultimately, the creation itself is maintenance, is guidance, and the reality of the human being, where does the human being go? Where does the human being, how does the human being live, so to speak? All of that comes back to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. وَلَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, the dominion of Allah and the power of Allah, and the rububiyyah is all manifest here. And the idea of indirectly that's being talked about is Maliki Yawmiddin. At the end, and even in the lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, everything returns back to Allah. Either, with the reality of life or death, or the reality of cause and effect, or the reality of maintenance, you know what I'm saying, and provision.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, those themes are very much dominant there.
This page, just to finish up, Sheikh Yusuf, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْكَبِيرُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَطِيفٌ خَبِيرٌ وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. As we can see with the Arabic, the inna is used, lahuwa, lam ta'keed, and emphasizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name with many different names. Inna Allah la'afuun ghafoor. Yani within a page, it's quite, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is really emphasizing these attributes. It's as if and He's promising a lot of swearing, a lot of ta'keed, emphasis. Perhaps it's a sign that, we need to connect with these names, especially in difficult times, and connect this with these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's that connection that can, inshallah, turn our barren days and barren earth into a green.
That's a beautiful, beautiful recommendation.
Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll have our final one, inshallah.
Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.
Alaikum salam.